Hello everyone, welcome to Come Sit at My Table. We're Tom and Melissa, and we're really happy to scoot over today and make room for you at the table. We are going to make a breakfast dish that I consider to be one of the best things in the world you can serve for breakfast on Easter. But don't let that fool you. This is really good any time of the year. I just like it for Easter because it's lemon, and I associate lemon with Easter. So this is something that we have made for Easter many times, and I think you will really enjoy it. By the way, it's called lemon rolls with lemon cream cheese glaze. Let's talk about what we're going to use to make it. Let me back up a minute. There are three parts to this video, three parts to this recipe. We're going to make the dough, then we have to let it rise. We're going to make the filling that we spread on top of the dough before we roll it up. Think like making cinnamon rolls and the way you would roll those up. But we'll make the filling before we roll it up. Then after they bake, we'll have the glaze that we put on top of it. So there are three parts to this. I have not put out everything we're going to use for all three parts. What we have out here right now, the ingredients on the counter, are for the dough. We're just going to make this part. When we get ready to make the filling for the lemon rolls, we'll put those ingredients out and let you see those. So this is what we need for just the dough. All right, we're going to start with 2.5 teaspoons of yeast, and I'm using active yeast. We also have 3/4 cup of warm milk. Now, when I say warm, I mean kind of like what you would, the temperature you would have for a baby bottle. It should be about 100 to 110 degrees. It should feel warm to the touch, but not hot. Something that's too hot, liquid that's too hot will kill your yeast. If it's not warm enough, your yeast won't activate. So just warm. We're also going to use 1 stick of butter, 2 eggs, 1/4 cup of sugar. I need to look at how much vanilla. I think it's 2 teaspoons. Yes, 2 teaspoons of vanilla. For the dough, we're going to use the zest off of 1 lemon. Now, we're not using the juice out of the lemon for the dough. We're going to save that lemon after we zest it and use the juice in another part of the recipe. So for the dough, we're only going to take the zest off of it and then save that lemon so that we can use the zest in the next part. We also are going to use about 4.5 cups of all-purpose flour. Now, I can't tell you exactly how much it's going to take because we're going to have to put it in a little at a time till the dough gets to the right consistency. But we are using all-purpose. I have 3.5 cups of flour back here and 1 cup here because we will start with 1 cup of flour before we start adding the other 3.5. So 4.5 total. Then we're going to use 1/2 teaspoon of salt and 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. The only other thing you're going to need is just a little bit of oil to put in the bowl to let your dough rise. So, and it won't take maybe a tablespoon of oil just to grease that bowl so that your dough can go in there and not stick. All right, let's get started. Okay, let's take our yeast, our warm milk, and our sugar and combine those in our mixing bowl. Let me grab it. Now, we do want to add our sugar to the warm milk before we add in our yeast because we have to give that yeast something to feed on. So I'm just going to stir that sugar into that warm milk before I add in my 2.5 teaspoons. Let me move that out of there. Before I add in my 2.5 teaspoons of yeast. And I'm just going to sprinkle that on top. And then we will whisk that in. Okay, so I'm going to take my whisk and just whisk that in gently. We just want that yeast to get down in that milk and sugar and let it start foaming. Now, we're going to cover it. I've got my old handy dandy cover. We're just going to cover that up and wait about 10 minutes for it to come to life, activate, and start to foam. And when it does, we'll be right back to do the next step. Our yeast has become frothy and has activated, so now we're ready to add the rest of our ingredients. Before we start, I want to show you our lemon. Now, I have zested part of it. I think you can see there that this white part and the yellow part look a little differently. And I have shown this before, but just for those who don't know, we have a friend that we made on a cruise who said her husband was not aware of how to zest the lemon. So I'm going to show you. If you have a lemon zester, you turn it so that the curved side is up like this, or maybe the curved side is down, so that when you zest your lemon, it catches that zest and doesn't fall off. If you turn this over, it's going to fall off as you zest your lemon. So we're just going to zest it.
That means just the top part, right?
Just the yellow. You don't want this white part. It is bitter and will ruin your dish. Now, we're going to use the zest, but we're going to save this lemon because we want this lemon juice for the next step when we make the filling to go inside of our lemon rolls. So we're just going to put the zest in. Hold your ears for those of you who are sensitive to it. Okay. And then we're just going to add everything else. We have 2 teaspoons of vanilla. And I like to just pour it down the side rather than right on top of my yeast. Let it go down the side and under the yeast. We're going to add our eggs. Same thing, I'm just going to pour them gently down the side.
You have to baby the yeast, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Because I want to make sure it activates. I'm going to put in our butter. And rinse my fingers off quickly. And then we're going to add the first cup of our flour. Now remember, we're going to add up to 3.5 cups more. I'm going to put my dough hook on. And I'm going to turn this on and let it start to run. Now, notice that I did not put in the salt or the nutmeg. Salt will kill yeast, and you don't want to put that in until you've started mixing the flour into the yeast mixture. I'm going to take my spatula and just kind of scrape down the sides a little bit. Make sure that flour is getting mixed in. Sure that dough hook's getting everything mixed up together. Okay, let's go again. And then we're going to start adding our flour just a little bit at a time until we have a nice sticky dough. And I'll just add that right down the side of my bowl. That you will see after we get some of it in, that will start to come together. Now I've put in probably half of my flour, so I can now put in my salt and nutmeg. So we'll put in half teaspoon of salt and 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. Let that start to mix in. And continue with our flour. And as I need to, I will take my spatula and just scrape the sides down. Make sure it's getting mixed in with that dough. I think I need to do that now. Eventually that dough will become a ball and start pulling away from the sides of the mixer bowl. All right, let's continue with the flour. We'll just have to see if we need all 4.5 cups of flour or if we need to put a little less. I need to increase it just a little. Help it start mixing and picking up that dough, or that flour, into the dough. You can see there, it has already started doing that. So in I go. Now, once I get all this flour into the dough, we are going to let this knead. We're going to let it run and knead this dough for 5 minutes. We'll just leave the mixer on. If you don't have a mixer, you can do this by hand. You will just mix your dough up until it is in a dough ball like this. Then you'll take it out, put it on your counter, and knead it by hand. All right, we're going to start our 5-minute timer. After it has run on low, we're going to put it on our lowest speed now. And when it has run for 5 minutes, we will come back and let you see what it looks like. There's our timer. Our dough has been running for 5 minutes. Melissa, can you come look at this? I want everybody to see that it has picked everything up out of the bowl. There is no flour left in there. Everything's out. So we're just going to pull it off of our dough hook. Get it off there. I can see that lemon peel in there. Oh, I bet that
smells good.
Okay. Now, we're just going to bring our dough over. We're going to put just a little oil in our bowl that we're going to let it rise in. I'm going to just go up around the bowl with that. Make sure it's coated well around the sides. Then we're going to take our ball of dough. Make sure I get all that up out of the bottom. You don't want to leave any dough in there. And I'm just going to put it right in our bowl. Now, the bottom of it is nice and oiled. So I'm going to turn it over, and that way the other side now has some oil. And we're just going to cover it again, like we did before with the yeast. And we're going to let it sit in our oven, and the oven is not turned on. We do have the light bulb turned on in the oven. The light bulb gives off some heat, and that heat from the bulb is enough to help this dough to rise. So we're going to put it in the oven with just the light bulb on. The oven is not on. 1 hour, it should double in size, and then when it's doubled, we'll be back and show you the next step. So in we go to the oven. Our dough is still in the oven with the light on, and it has about 45 minutes left. So I thought while it was rising, we would go ahead and make the filling to put in our lemon rolls. Now, when we talk about this filling, what we're talking about is what we're going to spread on top of the dough after we get it rolled out. We're going to take that dough, roll it out into a rectangle about 10 by 15, something like that. It's going to be fairly thick, we hope. And then we're going to take this filling and spread on top of it before we roll it up. It's kind of like when you make cinnamon rolls. You roll out the dough, then you sprinkle cinnamon and sugar, and well, you spread butter on it, and then cinnamon and sugar and roll it up. This is our filling for the rolls, just like you would put cinnamon, sugar, and butter in cinnamon rolls. So here's what we're going to use. Very simple. We have 2 cups of sugar. we have the zest off of one more lemon. Now remember, we had already zested one lemon for the dough. So now we have zested a second lemon. So we have two of them that are kind of naked. They don't have their peel on there anymore. They're white looking. So we're going to put that in with the sugar to get the oil out of that peel, out of that zest, into the sugar. So we're going to let those combine first. While we're doing that, we will juice those lemons. And we're going to start with 1/4 of a cup of lemon juice, but we may add a little more to get it to spreading consistency. We'll just have to see how much we need. We also are going to use 1 stick of very soft butter. And when I say very soft, I mean very soft. This is how soft it is. You can see my finger just goes right down in it. So it's very soft butter. Then we're going to use 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger and 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is take that sugar, put it in our bowl. We're going to add that zest. Hold your ears if you're sensitive. And then we're going to let those mix together for a few minutes while we zest the lemons. Now, all we're doing is getting that oil out of the lemon zest into that sugar so that that sugar has that lemon taste. All right. Now, while that's happening, we're going to juice these lemons. I'm just going to take them and squeeze them here in my juicer. And of course, we don't want the seeds in there. And if you don't want the pulp, you can certainly strain this. I probably won't. I don't mind the pulp in it. But I know some people really don't like orange pulp in their orange juice or lemon pulp in their lemon juice. If that's you, then absolutely you can strain it. That's up to you. I will, of course, have to take those seeds out, though. We certainly don't want seeds in our lemon rolls, do we? Now, if you don't have a juicer, an antique juicer like this that we kind of inherited, you can just squeeze them. Use a fork, poke a fork down into that lemon, just poke a fork down in there, and then start squeezing, and that juice will come out. Okay. That's all you need. Now, let me get those seeds out of there. There's one. There's a couple. We sure don't want a big hard seed in our... There's another one. And I might miss a few. If I do, when we pour it out of here into our measuring cup, I can still get them. Okay. I think that's all of them. I don't see any more. But we'll watch for them when we pour it into our measuring cup. Actually, let's just go ahead and do that. Let's just pour it slow. Make sure no seeds come out of there. Hey, look at that. I think I got them all. Excellent.
How much juice did 2 lemons?
Well, I don't know. Let's see. 1/2 cup exactly.
Okay.
So, and we may need the whole 1/2 cup. We'll just have to wait and see after we start mixing it in. Okay, so our sugar and zest have been running. The oil should be out of there. So now we're ready to add everything else. I'm going to start with the ginger and the nutmeg. There's my ginger. Get the nutmeg in, just a little bit, just 1/4 of a teaspoon. And then we want our butter to go in. And I'm going to turn this off while I put it down in there. Okay, And then we're just going to turn it on and let it run. And then after that butter is creamed with that lemon sugar, I will start to add the lemon juice a little bit at a time until we get it to the spreading consistency that we want. Sometimes it takes about a quarter of a cup, other times it'll take the whole half cup. So it's starting to come together. It's looking good. Man, does it smell good. Okay, so I have a quarter of a cup in right now. That's half of it. I think we could go even a little more though. I don't want it too thick. I want to be able to spread it.
You're going to refrigerate this until it's time to spread it out,
That's
right?
absolutely right.
Will it get thicker?
We still have, actually you don't have to refrigerate it, but I normally stick it in there. There's nothing wrong with leaving it out. It's just butter and sugar, really. Okay, there it's loosening up just a little bit. Getting a little more spreadable. That's looking good. You don't want it running. You want it to stay on your dough when you spread it on there. So, don't overdo it. Just a few drops at a time. Okay, I'm going to check that. Let's let it speed it up just a minute and get it mixed in really well. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, it's sticky, it's gooey, but it's not so thin that it's going to fall off. So, we're going to stop right there. I used about half of that last fourth. How much would that be?
An eighth. Of that last.
An eighth plus another fourth.
Okay.
I don't know. We used almost half cup. It's been too long since I taught math. Fractions hurt my brain. Okay, so we're just going to, I am going to refrigerate this probably just to kind of let it thicken up a little bit. And then it'll be in there about 30-35 minutes. And then when the dough is ready to roll out, we will come back and get this and spread it on there. We'll be back. Our dough has been in the oven and been rising for a little over an hour. Now we're ready to take it out, roll it out, and assemble everything. So let's just take it right out of the bowl. You'll notice I have put a little flour down on my pastry mat. I'm just going to pat it out kind of into a rectangle. And then we're going to start rolling. We want it to be about 10 inches by 15 inches. So let's just roll it out a little bit here. And we do need it to be pretty much a rectangle, so when we roll it up, there aren't short corners. So we have to make sure it's rolled out. Pull some of this over this way. That side seems a little thicker. Now I'm just going to play with it a little bit. Get these corners even. Get this down in here because this corner is just a little short. You don't want that to happen. And you can do that. You just take your hands and manipulate it. It's okay to do that. Just play with it. Pretend like it's Play-Doh. Pretend like you're 7. And you're playing with Play-Doh. Okay. So we have it pretty well patted out. Now, we're going to take that filling that we made for the inside, And we're just going to put it on here, and then we'll spread it out into a fairly thin layer. And I do like to go all the way to the edge with it, because I don't want a piece on the end that doesn't have lemon sugar filling in it, right? I want to make sure everything's got some filling in it. Okay, you know what, I'm going to use my spatula to get every bit of that, because we're going to need it. Let's get it all out there. I'm going to tell you, from experience, this filling is so good. Once you have this, you may never go back to having cinnamon rolls again. You may decide this is what you want every time. Okay. Now, it's going to take me just a minute to get this all spread out. So we'll take a break here and let me spread it all over the dough, and then we'll be right back to roll it up. I'm going to turn my mat because we want to start rolling from a long side. You can see that this side is longer than this way. So we're just going to start rolling on this side, and we're just going to bring it up and over. And as we roll it, we're going to pull it tight. We want to pull it back and tighten it up as we go, keeping that filling right inside of there. But pull it back and tighten it up a little bit. We want that filling to stay in there. You don't want it to ooze out. So keep it. You don't want the middle to get big and your edges to be really small. So you may have to manipulate it just a little bit. But it's okay. It's how you keep it all even. Now we want to cut this into 12 equal pieces. This corner right here needs to come out a little bit, and this one out just a little bit. Okay. Now, we have it all rolled up, and I'm going to take it off my mat because I do not want to cut it on my mat and take a chance of cutting my mat. So I'm going to try to get it off here without tearing it up. There we go. And I can get rid of this mat now and start to cut my rolls. So if I want 12 rolls, the easiest thing to do is to cut it right in the middle. I know there are people who use dental floss to do this, but I have found that it's easier to do it this way for me. You do it the way you find easier to do it. So I've cut it now into 4 equal pieces. Now each of these I want 3 rolls. So I'm going to make 2 cuts. So there's one, and there's one. And you can see these are fairly thick. So I'm going to take my dish. By the way, my skillet is preheated to,
skillet?
Not my skillet, my oven to 350 degrees. Thank you for catching that, babe. Sometimes my mouth goes faster than my brain. All right, so we have 3. I gotta move this so I can get in here.
Look at these here.
I'm going to do 3 more. I think if I ran my knife through some hot water, it would help these cut a little better.
You want to take a little pause and do that?
Yeah, we can do that. Let me just go over to the sink and run my knife through there, and we'll do the last 6 and get them in the pan. Our rolls are in the pan, and Melissa said that I said something I shouldn't have. I said we were ready to bake them. We're not. They have to rise one more time. So we're going to cover them, put them back in the oven with the light on, just like we did earlier. We're going to cover them with a clean tea towel, and this is a clean one I just got out. So we will cover them, and we're going to let them rise for an hour while we get ready to make the cream cheese icing or glaze that we're going to put on top of them. So we'll get these in, and we'll take just a short break and get ready, and then we'll come back and make the glaze or the icing to go on top of these after we get them
Now,
back.
you also talked about that this is a good place if you want to stop and make them the next
Good point.
morning.
If you want to make these the night before you're going to serve them, you can make them to this point right here, cover it with plastic wrap, and put it in your refrigerator. When you get up the next morning, you can take them out, let them come to room temperature, then put them in your oven with the light on and let them rise. Once they have risen, then you can take them out of the oven, heat your oven to 350, and then put them back in to bake. So you can make these the night before and just refrigerate them until you're ready to bake them. Okay, we're going to let these rise for an hour, and before that hour's up, we'll come back and make the cream cheese icing or glaze to go on top of them. We'll be back. Our lemon rolls have risen, and we're ready to put them in the oven on 350. It is preheated for 35 minutes. Then we will make the lemon cream cheese icing or glaze to go on there. So let's set our timer. 35 minutes, start. Now, we're going to go ahead and make the icing or the glaze to put on those while it's baking. So let's talk about what we're going to use. We are going to use 4 ounces of Philadelphia cream cheese. Now that's half of a block. So we're only using half of this. We're also going to use 2 sticks of room temperature butter. We're going to use the zest, couldn't think of it, the zest off of 1 lemon, and here's our 3rd lemon that we've used today now. So we're going to use the zest and about 3 to 4 tablespoons of the juice. Now, if we need a little more than 4, we can use it, but my experience is that about 4 tablespoons is right. We're also going to use 3 cups of powdered sugar or confectioner sugar, 10x sugar. It's called a lot of different names. And then we're going to put in 1/2 teaspoon of salt. If you don't want to add the salt, you do not have to. That's up to you. I just think it does give it a little better flavor. So we're going to start with our 1/2 block of cream cheese. I'll just put that right there, and you know what? I need to kind of break that off because we want all that in there, don't we? We don't want to waste it. Okay? So I'm going to lay that right there. We'll put in our 2 sticks of butter. Now, I know I can already hear what some people are going to say. 2 sticks of butter? Well, you know, this is not something that you eat every day. This is a treat. We may have this once, maybe twice a year. So it's not like we're having this every morning for breakfast. It's a little bit of a treat, and it's not like one of us is going to eat all the icing or the glaze for the rolls. You're just going to have a little bit of it on your roll, so it's okay. we're going to add in the zest. I'm going to bring my juice over here and get it ready. There goes our zest. All right. And I'm going to let that cream for just a minute or two before we add the rest of the ingredients. So, find where this goes on there. Okay. And I'm just going to turn that on and let it cream for just a second. The squeaking will stop as soon as the grease gets on the side of the bowl. And greases it up so it doesn't squeak. Now, we're going to add our powdered sugar. You know what? I probably need that shield to go on here because we all know what I do when I add powdered sugar, don't we?
I think I've seen that cloud a time or two.
Okay. So I'm going to use this one today. It will be fine. Now, I'm going to turn that off for just a minute until I get some of this in. Can you see that, babe?
Yes.
My left-handedness always gets in the way, doesn't it?
That's all right. Make it work.
Okay, let's put that amount in. Okay, let's put the rest of that in. There's 1 cup. And I'm going to add a tablespoon of our juice. There's 1 tablespoon. Okay. Let me get another cup of powdered sugar. Just level that off there. And we'll put the powdered sugar in. I know this is a fairly long video, longer than most of ours, but I promise you this recipe is worth it. I'm going to put in another tablespoon of juice. So it's 2 cups of powdered sugar and 2 tablespoons of juice. We're going to do 1 more cup of powdered sugar. Put that in there. Okay. Let's turn this off and put in our last cup of powdered sugar. I know I'm trying to do it so you can see. I'm spilling some. Okay, and let's put in 1 more tablespoon of juice, and then we may need 1 more. And by the way, I did leave the pulp in that. If you want to strain it, you can. Honestly, I think it looks pretty good. I don't think it needs any more juice, so we're going to leave it at 3 right now. Did I put the salt in? I don't think I did I? Okay, so let's put that in. Okay. And remember, you can leave that salt out if you want to. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So we're just going to leave that sit there until our rolls come out of the oven, and then we will take one out, put it on a plate, put some icing on it, some glaze on it, and we'll eat it. Do I have powdered sugar all over me?
A little bit, but
Do I?
A little bit.
That's all right, I've been cooking. All right, we'll be back when the rolls are ready. Our lemon rolls have baked for 35 minutes. And I think they're ready to come out. And is that not just as pretty as a picture?
They smell delicious.
They sure do. Now, normally we would not dig into these right now. We would let them cool, unless I'm gonna grab a little spatula out of here. We would let them cool for probably 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, but we can't wait. It's been a long time since we've had these. Well, when I say a long time, it's been over a year. Yum. Look at the filling that's on those. Yum, yum, yum. And of course, we have to top it with some of the glaze or the icing, whatever you want to call it. Now this hot, it's going to melt fast. And which is why we normally wait. But yum, doesn't that look good? Okay, let's try a bite. Now I know that this has been a little bit of a longer video than we normally do. But this is quite the recipe. I guess I should cut that smaller for you, shouldn't I?
Yes, please.
You are going to do the first bite, right?
Well, if you insist.
Okay, here we go. Don't burn yourself.
That's so good.
I love lemon. Wow. It's just as good as I remember. That's fabulous. I don't know why I associate these with Easter, but I do. I also associate ham with Easter. I have to have one more bite. And I'll tell you, Melissa and I decided a while ago, this is going to be our supper tonight. Since we didn't make them for breakfast, we're going to have them for supper. Okay. I hope you try these. It's really just 3 steps. You make the dough and let it rise. You make the filling, spread it on, roll them up, cut them, and then you make the icing or the glaze to go on top. You can't beat that. It's pretty easy, really, pretty simple. Thank you for watching. We sure would appreciate it if you'd click that thumbs up, that like button, and the subscribe button if you've not already clicked it in the past. Right beside of it is the little notification bell, and then you'll see the word all. Remember that right under this video, where you see the title, Lemon Rolls with Lemon Cream Cheese Icing or Glaze, not sure which one we'll use. If you click that title or in that box, that description box will expand. Melissa always puts the written recipe for you right there so you have it written out. And our contact information is at the bottom under that recipe. And then, of course, there's a place at the bottom for you to leave a comment if you'd like. We would love to hear from you. Tell us what you think of when you think of Easter. Of course, we think of the death and resurrection of our Savior, Jesus Christ. But as far as food, what do you think of when it comes to Easter? We'd love to hear from you. We hope you have a wonderful day, and we hope you have a wonderful Easter. And we want you to remember, you are always welcome to come sit at my table. Have a great day.